Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of Health Talks with Dr. Trinh. The one show, maybe the only show, that shows you a path to a healthier life. With the original Pathfinder himself, Dr. Trinh. How are you, sir?
I am doing good, guys. Welcome OC Talk Radio. Today is a special day. We have a special person on here today. John Dwyer, president of the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation, and to chat about a very important topic. And as most of you guys have already heard, the FDA decision this week
on a brand new drug for Alzheimer's here. Well, I appreciate that he's taken time out of his fly fishing or whatever he's doing there. He's at the lake or at the river or at the ocean somewhere here. Welcome, sir.
Glad to be here, Dr. Trinh. Paul, real pleasure to join you this morning.
Doctor, let me just set it up for everybody this morning, then we'll let Dr. Trinh do most of the talking today. I'll try and restrain my questions and interrupt periodically to bring in some questions from the audience. But Dr. Trinh has been talking for the last year about maybe there's some Alzheimer's stuff coming. Maybe we might be able to someday detect this thing in some sort of blood sample. Maybe. And all of a sudden, without any preparation, something's here. What has arrived?
Wow. The first medication approved in what, 18 years, John? Almost
Correct.
20.
Almost 20, but 18, close to 19 years.
Since Namenda. But the first medication approved that actually changes the trajectory of this epidemic, pandemic of Alzheimer's that we face, not just in the US, but around the world. Obviously, with a lot of controversies around all this, and certainly I want to get our take on it and the audience's take on it as well. So what are these controversies that we're hearing about this? What are your thoughts on that, John, overall?
Well, let me just briefly, with your permission, Doctor, give the audience a little regulatory background on why we call it controversy. So the FDA approved aducanumab, now called Aduhelm, a Biogen drug designed to reduce the accumulation of beta amyloid plaque. One of the foundations to having the pathology that's consistent with Alzheimer's. They approved it over a fairly negative, very negative, to be honest, advisory committee decision back in the summer of last year. And so for those in the audience that don't know all this regulatory jargon, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, routinely looks to outside experts to advise them on the merits or demerits of any particular drug application for every indication that they're going to look at for approval. And it is rare. We shouldn't we have to call balls and strikes clearly. It is rare for the advisory committee's recommendation or disapproval to be different than the approval or disapproval of the agency, but it does happen.
So let's back up for those uninitiated like me. We've been trying to wrap our heads around what causes Alzheimer's, what we know about Alzheimer's. You mentioned beta of amyloids and all that. Give us a 30-second overview of what they think this drug will do and what it won't do.
Go ahead, Dr. Trinh, you're the doctor.
Yeah. Yes. For those who don't know already, in every patient with the diagnosis, the accurate diagnosis of Alzheimer's, there is a plaque that is associated with this diagnosis. The Alzheimer's plaque, right? The general name, the scientific name is beta amyloid. It isn't the only, marker associated. There's tau tangles and there's other associations, but we know that in every brain with Alzheimer's, this plaque is there.
And what does the plaque do? It somehow, as you describe it, it somehow prevents the connectors from happening or something, as I understand.
So in a normal healthy brain, we each have probably about 100 billion brain cells in a healthy brain. And so
I'm Irish. I got half as many after all the years I've been living here.
So these brain cells, right? These brain cells, they're always talking to one another. So one brain cell will communicate with the next brain cell, and they'll communicate with the next brain cell. And so every thought that I have is a pattern of brain cells talking to one another. Every feeling that I have is a pattern of brain cells, just connecting with one another. And we believe that, the current theory is that the Alzheimer's plaque, as it builds up over time, and it takes 15 to 20 years to build up before it causes any issues at all, right? It just builds up silently. As it builds up over time, when there's a large enough of a plaque burden, this plaque could potentially get in the way between two brain cells trying to communicate. Mm-hmm. Right? It could potentially interrupt the communication between brain cells. And this interruption over time leads to issues like cognitive decline, memory loss, loss of executive function, loss of being able to balance the budget, right? Alzheimer's is more than just memory. It's behavioral changes, it's the ability to do complex tasks. And so the belief is that this plaque is strongly associated with Alzheimer's, which we know it is. The question in the community among scientists is whether, removing such plaque will help with the symptoms of Alzheimer's.
Or preventing its buildup over time somehow.
So that's the overall picture of what we're trying to do in clinical trials.
So this drug, and who is there? Must be a company who's producing this drug. Is there one manufacturer that's producing?
Biogen is the
big company. All right, so Biogen comes up with this drug and puts it through clinical trials and human trials and everything over the last couple of years, and the drug purports to do what?
So Biogen and the stages of clinical trials, for those of you guys who aren't aware, the whole idea behind the concept of clinical trials is to put these medications through the FDA pipeline, mm-hmm. right? And to evaluate the medication. Is it safe? Is it working? Is it effective? Do we separate patients into placebo groups and groups to taking the real medication, and we compare both groups with that. And as a matter of fact, from the time a scientist thinks of a medication and puts it through this pipeline, right, this preclinical pipeline first, where we test it on rats and monkeys and animals, and if it's effective, then we go through these phases, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. If the medication succeeds and passes through each phase, at the end of phase 3, if it shows, consistent safety, relative safety, and if it shows efficacy, meaning it works, right, based on its primary endpoint of what it wants to do, then that medication goes to the FDA, applied to the FDA for approval. So this is the process it takes. An average medication takes, what do you think, John, 10, 12 years to actually go through the entire pipeline?
8 to 12 years, easily in Alzheimer's, 10 to 12. Yeah. And a couple $1 billion to boot.
Wow. But I'm still struggling to understand what do they hope, what do they believe this drug does? Does it somehow remove the plaque or just prevent it from accumulating?
So this drug went through 2 phase 3 studies. Two phase 3 studies. The initial phase 3 study did not show any improvement over the placebo group as far as cognitive changes, right? The second phase 3 study, at one specific dose, because they looked at certain different dosing, right, to see
take
which
a lot
dose,
of it, take a little bit, right? Yeah.
Exactly. At one specific dose, the second phase 3 study at one specific dose did show, albeit small, did show a 22%, I think was
22.
the number, showed a 22% difference in slowing down the decline of memory loss compared to the placebo group.
So people had less memory loss, 22% of them, compared to the placebo. Had some effect, but only at a very specific dose. Take a little more, take a little less. That efficacy, that effectiveness disappeared.
Yeah, so if I could just jump in for your audience, I am not a doctor, but I'm a civilian who's developed a pretty good working knowledge of Alzheimer's, since a lot of my family has struggled with the disease. And I just want to make clear, the drug did show it cleared beta amyloid plaque. This is going to be important to understand what the FDA did. Well, think of beta amyloid plaque as cholesterol.
Okay.
So you got a drug that moved the cholesterol up. Now, it doesn't mean you've avoided heart disease or heart attacks by just reducing cholesterol, right, Dr. Trinh?
Yes.
So we got a drug that we know pretty clearly it's removing cholesterol. We don't know if it's removing the good cholesterol or the bad cholesterol for sure, but cholesterol's down. In a layman's term, that's what's happening.
But I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I'll ask one more time. Does it remove it I take, I don't know, I'm going to give some plug to some drug, lipid or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it takes, supposedly, I've got too much cholesterol's too high, so it's trying to remove that cholesterol buildup in my blood so that I don't get a constricted vein and have a heart attack someday. God forbid. Is this... in your analogy, this is somehow blocking, constricting, doing, I don't know if it's constricting.
It's purging it. It's just exactly like Lipitor.
Lipitor, yes.
You know, it's finding the plaque, but it's in your brain. So it's got to get across the blood-brain barrier, dissolve it, get it back through the blood-brain barrier, and dispose it through your blood system to, just like you do, excrete it like you do for cholesterol that's been built up. So that's what it's doing. Does that help,
all right,
Mr. Robert?
It does. Now, last question, then I'll get back to Dr. Trinh and you guys here. So if it reduces this, and you started off with this well-described description, we're not really sure what causes Alzheimer's, but we know if we see it, we see this plaque, and the assumption is, the belief is, this plaque, like cholesterol, is blocking the transmission of little brain cells and communication. It's breaking that down. They think that's what it is. So if it's only having this small, this 22% improvement over the placebo group at a specific dose, is that because the drug doesn't remove enough of this stuff maybe? Or is it because we got more to learn about Alzheimer's? It's more than just removing the plaque to see some improvement.
I think we got a lot more to learn. The drug is successful in removing plaque, no doubt. Okay. No doubt, it can be successful. The question is, are we removing it at an early enough stage before damage is done, right? Or and then the big question is, what's causing plaque?
Yeah, well, that was my next question. Where is this stuff coming from? In cholesterol, it's supposedly a bad diet, or maybe it's in your genes, or et cetera, et cetera. There's still various theories where your cholesterol plaque comes from. Any theories where this beta amyloid stuff comes from here? This brain plaque, if I can call it that. Where does it come from?
Multiple theories. We know that that Alzheimer's has been called diabetes type 3. So we believe that that sugar and insulin resistance plays a huge role in plaque production, or in causing and contributing to Alzheimer's. We know that lack of sleep, right? Lack of socialization, lack of using our brains. There's multiple different
theories where this stuff comes from. So what's the controversy? Is the controversy that it's been approved? Why did this other study say we're not recommending approval? Is it because of its low efficacy at the specific dose, or is it? But it seems like, to quote somebody earlier, isn't something better than nothing?
Yeah, well, that somebody was me.
I didn't want to point that out, but yes, I mean, if go ahead.
And I think, give me a layman's 4 minutes, and I'll try and set the stage.
Please.
Look, 18 years, right? So one of my very good friends who's just recently passed, her mother got Alzheimer's at the same time that Magic Johnson got HIV, and she died 5 years later, and Magic Johnson's still going strong.
Exactly.
We have a disease that had no therapy for mild cognitive impairment, the earliest stage of impairment in Alzheimer's.
Nothing you could do at that stage. You know you got it. Nothing we can do. Right.
There's no approved drug. Now, doctors are thoughtful people. They try to help. Dr. Trinh tries to help. They may prescribe drugs that off-label to help, and they're not helping very much, to be honest. But anyhow, those are the facts. So when this drug came out with these results, and just, Paul, I want your audience to know, if you go on our website, I wrote several letters and testified at the advisory committee in support of the application. Okay. And my reason was something is better than nothing.
Right.
And I've got a couple really important insights into that, but that's not where I'm at yet. And I felt very strongly as a patient advocate that doctors like Dr. Trinh need more tools in the toolbox.
Yes, right.
It is not, but the controversy was neurology has been, and Dr. Trinh, you'll accept with graciously the intrinsic criticism I'm about to level. Neurologists are not oncologists. This would not be a big controversial decision if this was a cancer drug. In fact, it was approved like you approve cancer drugs. Because in cancer, if you shrink the tumor, they'll approve it with the idea that you'll do a subsequent study to show that it actually really, really worked. But they don't want people who may only have a couple months of life after diagnosis to be denied something that could help them until they know for sure whether it works or not.
Absolutely.
So,
these are deadly diseases, and if I got one or know somebody that's got one, give me anything you got.
Right. And believe me, the families suffering with this disease are getting, because of the lack of therapies, they don't get a lot of hope or time from neurology today. And so the FDA said, you know what, I'm going to approve this using a absolutely well understood process that is in the statute. I'm a lawyer, by the way, by background.
Okay.
Don't hold it against me, Robert.
I tried to be a lawyer for you. I couldn't handle it here.
Once in a while, we'll take a lawyer on the show. It's okay, meeting our quota.
But this is not like the FDA, made up stuff. They used a mechanism that neurology's never been the beneficiary of before. And all the neurologists who are pretty structured guys, you got to be pretty smart to be what Dr. Trinh is, as a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a neurologist. You're in a rarefied air of medicine. But this is an honest to God, well-worn pathway to get an approval. And they said there's plenty of evidence it reduces plaque. Go do another study to see if you can show it helps cognitive improvement. But we're going to put it out on the market. And a lot of the old school neurologists, their heads exploding.
Right.
They're going, how did that happen? My world just got turned on its ear. And I think it's a great thing. You can ask me later why.
So, Mr. Neurologist, Mr. Dr. Trinh here, we'll do left side, right side, left brain, right brain. You're on the left side now. why would neurologists not welcome any tool? Why would they write a report or outside group say, not effective enough? Is that it? False hope?
Not effective. Yeah. So the answer is not effective enough. We did see effectiveness at a very, I don't know, confined part of the entire funnel. There was effectiveness. So yes, there is effectiveness at the high dose, 22% compared to the placebo group in slowing down. So yes, there is effectiveness. The question is it enough to justify, a medication that's $56,000 a year, right, for the treatment?
Wow.
So
Is it that it costs that much for somebody's paying it? Probably not the patient, Medicare or a drug or a medical plan or something, but it's an expensive drug. I didn't realize this.
it is. But what is the value that you place on, if it's able to help grandma or mom or dad remember you for the next 6 months to a year? What is the price tag of that?
Exactly.
You can't put a price tag on it, right?
Right.
So that's I see the reasoning behind the FDA's approval. It's, we have 5-6 million Americans walking around with this diagnosis of Alzheimer's. They cannot wait another 5 years.
Exactly. Well, you figure it out. So will
Well,
doctors reject this and say, no, it doesn't work enough? Will they administer it, or welcome it, administer it with disclaimers? Hey, I'm just telling you, this may not do a lot, but it'll do something. How do you think the medical, I know it's early, how do you think the medical community will react, John? Are they going to embrace it? Are they going to run away from it?
Paul, let me back up and say, and Dr. Trinh is a notable exception.
He's notable at something. I'm not sure, but he's.
But most physicians, primary care and neurologists, whether they're at Irvine Medical or Kaiser Permanente, you walk in there and you come in with your family and you show symptoms consistent with dementia/Alzheimer's, and that doc looks at the family and says, "There's not a lot I can do."
Yeah, right.
I'll give you these drugs that are generic. They don't cost a lot. It may help a little, but start thinking about getting your affairs in order. That's the way the drug has been. The disease has to be managed today.
That's the way it was managed in my mother's case. My mother developed Alzheimer's, as we've said on this show, out of Parkinson's. She had her primary problem was Parkinson's, and then developed some kind of dementia in the latter stages of Parkinson's that we weren't prepared for. And they just kept saying, nothing we can do about any of this.
So I'm going to give you a lot of good news now.
All right.
I mean it. There is no way, first of all, California in particular, but the country in general is blessed with a very conscientious, ethical, thoughtful medical community. There is no way a family walks in today, after Monday, nobody's walking into a doctor's office and getting the same "I can't do anything" answer they got last week.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I have it on good authority. The drug's going to be available in California probably within a month.
Wow, that fast. Okay. That was my next question. Does this take years to put into production?
Dr. Trinh said, bring a little news. So I'm bringing a little news.
Wow. Okay. We heard, because I haven't read that part of it. I've read the drug's been approved. Now people are debating it. And I thought, well, this will go on in typical lawyer fashion. Now it'll get appealed to a higher court, a different authority, a relook, a review, and we'll really be in trouble. I won't see this for a year or two.
No, a month, 2 months at the most. The FDA, God bless them, when they decide, they are it. There is no appeal. They are the experts. And so let me go on and say, from the experience you had with your mother, with the experiences I've had with multiple family members, and believe it or not, I get phone calls all the time as a civilian. What do I do? Who do I see?
Because your doctor said I got no answers. So now you're going offline. You're going anywhere, everywhere.
Right. So I can assure you, doctors are going to take your visit differently. I think that you're going to see health systems from Scripps to Irvine to
Memorial Care, Kaiser, all the ones that are here. Yeah.
All of them.
Right.
They're going to have to tune up, muscle up, rethink this process, because the key here, Paul, is it isn't going to work for everybody. Let's get clear.
Right.
It isn't going to help everybody.
Right.
But this is like breast cancer was. We got a drug called Herceptin 20, 30 years ago, and it only worked for 20% of the breast cancers. But guess what? We started that, got those 20 cured, and then we started generating more breast cancer drugs for the other 80%. And
Right.
thank God, breast cancer is very survivable today if you get on top of it. So
and nobody debated when they came out with that drug. I don't recall. Maybe the same debate happened, but when breast cancer patients were thrilled, I got some hope now. I had no hope before.
I think I don't want to conflate. It was different. You know, the data was better, but the point that matters is if you can reasonably suggest, and all I'm saying, this is a layman's guess who's read a lot about this, that 1 out of 5 folks that present to their doctors can benefit from this drug. And we don't know well yet which 21 out of 5 it is. So the system has to put on their big medical pants and tighten up and figure out better how to characterize patients so that they can say with much more certainty, this guy's going to help. I'll give you 2 factors that Dr. Trinh can explain that I think will matter. Number 1, they have to do a better job of using simple cognitive tests now and blood tests, even before they do anything fancy, to say, hey, look, you look like you're in the early stages of something that's not adding up. Your memory concerns are real. This isn't, I can't remember where I put my keys.
Right.
And second, it will be further instructive, besides the blood test, to see if you have beta amyloid buildup. You're going to have to probably get aware of what your genetic makeup is, because the Biogen data show that if you have an ApoE4 gene, you're more likely to respond to the drug. Wow. Not exclusively, Dr. Trinh can explain this, but if you've got impairment at all, and you get a blood test that says, I got some beta amyloid somewhere, and you got the ApoE4 gene, you very much want to talk to your physician about this drug. And your physician's going to know all this. But I think already the phones are ringing off the hook in Southern California about this question.
I think so.
And the system has got to grow up fast to solve, for the first time, neurology and volume to better characterize which patients should go into this. Because it is an expensive drug. The price is disappointing. And I could argue both sides of the question. The only thing I'd say to your listeners is hold your tickets, because I think the free market is going to work on that price, and it's going to come down. But Biogen's out there with 56,000. But there is a big customer assistance program coming out. And I think there are going to be ways to get your price down. But right now, today, Paul, because I call balls and strikes.
Right.
If you price it out today, and there's no adjustment through assistance or adjustment in the free market price, people who get this drug may have to come out of pocket as much as $10,000 a year.
Wow.
Now that's real money. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a used Ford Fusion a year. I mean, and if you're 65 years old and retired, you're going to swallow hard.
Yes.
But we take this thing and we think about it. Medicare Advantage is going to, I believe Medicare is going to have to cover it. I believe Medicare Advantage is going to cover it. I think they're going to do things in their own enlightened self-interest. That's lawyer talk. They're not going to want to pay for false cases. They're only going to want to pay for positive cases. They're going to work hard with patients to figure out if you're right for the drug. but they're not going to deny you the drug. I feel pretty comfortable that they're not going to deny you the drug. They're going to make sure it's good for you. That's all great because we never had this much tension before, Paul.
Exactly.
And I think patients are going to benefit.
All right, there's a lot to unpack in there. Take some of it apart, Dr. Trinh. Let's talk, and let's talk about the one, I want you to focus on the one thing you focused on before, which is properly diagnosis. Let's start with a proper understanding, because I'll preface it by saying when my late mother went through this 10 plus years ago, there was no test. There was no blood test. There was no nothing. There was no genetic test. They looked at her and said, I guess you got dementia.
Right.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, I think the folks that come to clinical research, Irvine Clinical Research is where I'm at, and that's my research family. But I think in general, a lot of folks that come through the Alzheimer's clinical research route with the diagnosis of Alzheimer's already by their neurologist, by their PCP, when we scan their brain, there is a significant number of folks who are amyloid and tau negative, meaning they never had Alzheimer's because
they had something else.
They had something else. It was a judgment call.
And for example, my mother's sister, who never got married, my late aunt, who I also got took under my wing as an only child, and she didn't have any other living relatives out here. She used to get dementia, but it was a urinary tract infection. And when we cleared that, she cleared up.
All the time. All the time. So yes, we need to confirm that the plaque is there before a patient is eligible for for this treatment. And that confirmation currently, these PET scans are being done through clinical research to look at that. The question is, currently Medicare does not cover an amyloid, PET scan for just the public. I don't know how that's going to work out with this medication. I love John's idea of a blood test, right, to evaluate that. I know there's organizations like C2N developing their blood tests, and there are other blood tests looking at this to look for a more affordable way, right, to evaluate the faster
and more affordable.
Yes.
And I could tell you about 3, maybe 4 that are going to be on the market as laboratory developed tests. Are you hearing me, Kaiser? Are you hearing me, Script?
Yeah, listen, I'm right.
Get out there and allow the LDTs is what we, if you're in healthcare, Paul, all you got is acronyms.
I know. I'm trying to write these down as correct. He said PCP earlier. I thought that was a drug like crack cocaine or something, but I think that's primary care physician here.
Yeah, that's right. Primary care physicians. I refuse to call doctors providers, but most of the doctors that are going to have to wrestle with this problem are not. They don't have enough neurologists in California to even start to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
The primary care physicians, the doctor of your day in and day out process, OBGYNs and primary cares are going to have to be muscled up to handle this thing and get people in the right, yes, you should move forward and look for the drug, or no, you should.
So let me see if I heard something here hopeful. What you suggested is, right now, drug's expensive. We don't know if Medicare, Medicare Advantage, or any of your other healthcare plans are going to pay this or pay all of it. What might happen, your assumption, your lawyerly conclusion, which I think is probably true, that in their own self-interest, they might start paying for it, but only if you prove to me that you're part of that group that might benefit. Show me a genetic test. Show me that you got some plaque buildup. Then I might pay, because I don't want to pay for the other 4 people that shouldn't have the drug, or the 4 people that didn't help, much less the 40 million other people that got the drug that didn't even have Alzheimer's because it wasn't diagnosed correctly. So I'm not going to jump in and start paying for an expensive drug until you show me some proof that you that you could benefit from this, which means, here's the good news, maybe tests will come on the market. Maybe doctors will get smarter about diagnosing this, and maybe we'll just stop looking at you and saying, you got Alzheimer's, so what can I do?
Right. Do you agree with all that, Dr. Trinh? Because I do.
Absolutely. I see this medication, despite the fact that, there's a load of criticism toward, the approval and all that. I see this as the first cell phone. Remember how big the first cell phone was?
Oh, it's a brick. Yeah.
It was a brick. It was large. It was expensive, right? But
it didn't work very well.
Right.
But it was the first cell phone.
Right.
It was the first cell phone. And over the years, as this came out, we got, now I got an iPhone, right? And it does everything for me. This is kind of like the first cell phone of Alzheimer's medication, as far as it's not perfect, it's very expensive, it's huge and all that, but that's kind of what I see. My question for you, John, and because we're in the field of clinical research,
down to our last 10 minutes here, last 10 minutes.
Yeah, are folks going to ask for this medication, and are we going to lose potential patients who would have gone into clinical trials because they want to do aducanumab? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, yes. Short answer is, the free market of ideas and opportunity. Some people are going to say, well, I got an approved drug here on the left hand, and I'm certainly going to see whether I qualify for the drug one way or the other. Now, so they should, in consultation with their physician. But even there is good news, Dr. Trinh, because practicing physicians are now going to know not only that this drug exists, but there are more trials right behind it, like they do in oncology, that they could advance their patients into in lieu of aducanumab or with aducanumab, because all trials of the future are going to have to be able to accommodate the fact that patients are on Aduhelm. So I think they're going to make a choice.
Right.
We've already talked about the price, but the price is going to be a deterrent for some people. And they're going to say, well, this science is really improved, but I can't afford that the way the free market's working today. And what else can I do to get that drug or other promising candidates without having to pay for it? And the answer is they're going to come down to you, Dr. Trinh, and I hope talk to you about clinical trials.
I love it, and there are folks reaching out to me already regarding this, and if
I could just say one more thing about that,
right.
This drug, Dr. Trinh can explain it eloquently, but this drug is only really supposed to be used for people with early, but they have symptoms. That's mild cognitive impairment or mild Alzheimer's disease. So if you've got a family member with moderate Alzheimer's disease, this drug has never been tested for improving their condition. Dr. Trinh has studies over there where they have a drug in trials for moderates. We don't have a lot of choices for people that are in the middle innings of Alzheimer's disease. Think about, I'm not saying they should, I'm encouraging people to call Dr. Trinh and think about a drug for your moderates. And in addition, there are a lot of other therapies coming down the pipe, including biogen therapies that are targeting not only beta amyloid plaque, but tau proteins. And they're in Dr. Trin's center. And frankly, we got more choice than we've ever had before. And Paul, there's going to be more money flowing into the system to test this thing.
Because there's some hope. All right, so here's my question. I mean, I suppose this is a dumb one, and you're both going to groan at me here. But why, even on this show, didn't I hear this was even coming? This came as a complete shock. Big news. Everybody. I mean, people even don't know Alzheimer's. I mentioned this show, and people say, yeah, I just heard about this drug. Front page news and all the news feeds here. Why has this come as such a surprise? And are there others right behind it? Are we like in the COVID stage where we got 2 or 3 other drugs with, right chasing it right behind it? Are we going to see more?
Yes. Well, I'll leave it to Dr. Trinh to explain why you didn't hear about it sooner, because it's his show.
Yeah, it's his show. I thought he'd be telling me all about it. Now he's shocked me here. Okay.
The world of Alzheimer's, has always been perceived by folks as, I'm getting older, I'm losing my memory, this is normal,
Right.
and there's nothing I can do about it. You go to your doc, and many of them tell you the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, you're losing your memory. Here's your Herceptin. See me in 6 months.
Right.
And that's it. It stops there.
Right.
Right. And most physicians know that, we're not stopping or preventing this condition that in Orange County is the third leading cause of death.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
Right?
That alone is shocking information, right?
Yes. So this news is a game changer. It's not a perfect medication. It doesn't bring a cure, but if it can provide for your loved one an additional, few months or of a year or whatever that time span is, right? If it's able to provide your loved one these additional time, even if it's a small chance of that, what is the worth of that? I mean, can you plug a dollar value on that? And this is why this is such a game changer. And I think it's going to drive more research.
That's what John suggested. You see one breakthrough, others might say, hey, well, let's shift and put some money in this. So Dr. Trinh, why didn't we hear about this? Did you know this was coming, or did this shock you too? Is this a big secret, a stealth secret working its way? John was testifying on the Hill about this thing. Nobody's listening. And all of a sudden,
I absolutely knew it was coming. I didn't want to bring any excitement until I knew what the decision was from the FDA. I didn't want to set up something and then boom, it's denied, and but I knew it was coming.
So give me a couple other, don't tell me names, but are there others right behind it? Or is this, now that it's broken through, we're hoping people are going to jump on the bandwagon? Or are there a couple that you guys aren't telling us about that look just as promising or more coming out in the next year following on its heels?
Well, if you will, let me, Dr. Trinh, I'll just, as a layman say, there are not one, but half a dozen additional candidates right behind this one. And you got to do the research work. That part I agree with the people that were detractors of this particular application. You would like the data cleaner. You would like it to fit into a nice, neat box. I think there are studies coming that are already being underway, some of which Dr. Trinh is conducting, that could be better. We don't know yet. That's the important thing. We don't know yet, but there's early data to suggest they could be better. And so I think this is a new era, one that I've waited a good, at least half my adult life for for what happened Monday. And I think that everybody on your listening audience should know that there's more hope and even more hope coming in the form of new therapies. But my job and Dr. Trin's job is to do the research. And also, I would say to your audience, and I'll finish on this, you got to be noisy. If you're worried about your family with Alzheimer's, you got to be noisy. Don't take no for an answer from your doctor. I don't think that'll be the case, but they got to get ready for you, and they got to give you a firm, clear, I call it DAD, detect, assess, and diagnose.
Right.
And they got to give you a clear pathway to get you to a place of informed yeses or nos.
But too many of them don't act like dad anymore. I'm sorry to be critical, as I am on the show, of so many doctors, having gone through my dad's demise, my mother's demise, her sister's demise. When they get to this stuff that they can't cure, can't fix, it's deaf, dumb, and blind. Don't know, don't want to talk about it, don't see anything, go see somebody else. That's not the correct approach here.
The system is the problem. The system is the problem. As a primary care physician, we are given 15, 20 minutes per patient. And by the time I'm done, right, reviewing your labs, refilling your scripts, sending you to specialists and all, by the time I'm done with all that, the next patient is waiting for me.
Yeah.
Where do we?
And about halfway through the process, your mind is already gravitating to writing the paperwork and getting the next one in. What'd you say? That's real interesting. Okay, I'm writing up the report.
Where do we have time to talk about the mind diet, right?
Yeah.
A diet that's been, shown through several studies to, to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Where do we have time to talk about the 8, pillars of that we can do through lifestyle changes,
Healthy brain, like you talk about all
healthy
the
brain
time.
stuff that we go and preach all the time, right? And so the system is the problem, and so this medication approval have just shined a large spotlight on this issue, and now hopefully it's going to drive more research, it's going to drive more funding, and it's going to bring awareness to folks that there's a plaque up there that is associated with this, and we should figure out, right? This is like the initial cell phone to me, and it's going to get better over
Well,
time.
let's shine a big light on your guest organization that I'm sorry to say I never heard of, because there's so many layers and levels and organizations, even here in Orange County, when it comes to Alzheimer's, the Alzheimer's this and that. What is the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation, and what do you guys do, and how do we help you do it?
Hey, Paul, I'm happy to sing for my supper, but this is we are a not-for-profit organization dedicated to reducing the time, reducing the cost, and improving the quality of Alzheimer's trials, clinical trials.
Mm-hmm.
We had not a lot, success has a lot of fathers and mothers.
Right.
We were tangentially involved in the aducanumab study, but only because we helped a lot of the sites get better over the course of that study. We were not in the study itself, but we're in a bunch of studies working with Dr. Trinh. Actually, we have 6 sites in Orange County alone that
really?
we work with to do clinical trials faster, better, and more effectively. And I would say, even if he wasn't his radio program, he's one of the best sites we have in the country, much less in Orange County. But, the thing is, we believe patients and trial participants come first. So if there's someplace nearby that there's a site somebody's interested in, a trial somebody's interested in, we want them to have choice. We want them to have access. And so my mission is to make trials across the country more effective. We're going to Europe, we're up in Canada. And Paul, I wake up every day saying I got to get more therapies to the families stricken with this disease.
Amen.
Monday was a big day, but we're not stopping there.
So I'm looking at your site here. It's the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation, and it shows that you have a network of research centers, quite a bunch of them. I'm trying to just understand what it is that you do. Do you fund these centers? Do you work with the drug companies and help them find participants? Or are you doing advocacy work behind the scenes? Any or all of that? What?
Oh, we do all of that. If you Google us, we've been in the Orange County press. We do you have a senior center there, Dr. Trinh. Which one was it? It looks more like a country club. It's so beautiful.
Multiple. I speak at multiple senior centers throughout Orange
There's a
County.
bunch of them here. The Mizell centers near where I live in Rancho, and some others here. Yeah.
And locally, our local hero here from Gap is Lisa Thurman. She's been on the show twice already. She's been on our show twice already talking about this, and she's our hero, definitely. If you guys want to learn more about clinical trials for Alzheimer's, and you're close enough to our Irvine office, Irvine Clinical Research, just give us a call. We're at 949-753-1663. 949-753.
And you are in the process right now. I know you can't tell us, it's all top secret. You're in stealth mode, but are there clinical trials for Alzheimer's going on in your facility right now?
Of course, there's multiple.
And they're not a secret. They're on .gov. I can tell you 3 that I know that they're in. They're at Trailblazer 2 and the autonomy study are, and that's a matter of public record, Paul, but if they call that number, they will get a wonderful experience, and they will get a call right back, and they'll learn about their options.
Is the citizen empowered with the internet? Because when my late mother went through this, there was no internet, or it was the early stages of the internet. We were all carrying brick cell phones.
Right.
There was no way, except she went to the doctor and he said, honey, he used to call her honey, honey, what can I tell you? You know, there's nothing I can do. And my dad, you know, crying, he would say, I wish I could help her, but this is just, you know, the next step here.
Well, Dr. Trinh, how would you suggest that patients, what part of the internet should they look at? Maybe it's your guys' site to get a list of choices.
Exactly.
And learn more about aducanumab, print it out and walk into the next meeting with their doc, slam it on the table,
Boom.
and say, tell me about that stuff.
Perfect.
Right there.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. He got to the point. So give us that, Dr. Trinh. Where do I, as a citizen, go to find out information about clinical trials and information about this so I can be informed and my own patient advocate?
Clinical trials, really simple. Just Google search Irvine clinical research. And so they can find out, you know, our site, what we do at Irvine Clinical Research. We're inside the Alzheimer's Orange County building. The
big one right off the freeway here.
So we're in the same building, and so it's not too hard to find.
But I'm listening somewhere else. I'm not in Irvine. How do I find out about clinical trials? It seems like a deep, dark secret to most of us here. I asked my doctor to look for them.
Yeah, they can go to clinicaltrials.gov, G-O-V.
Okay.
That's one location. The second thing is if they're in a different state, right? Simple Google search clinical trials in, you know,
Michigan,
Tennessee, whatever city you're in. Oftentimes the Google SEOs will find those locations based on just typing in, you know, Alzheimer's clinical trials in the city you're in or the state you're in.
Can I go to Global Alzheimer's platform, or do you?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I was going to, but you know, it's Dr. Trin's show, but you can go to the global, it's globalalzplatform.org. Our website also has a list of trials and, more importantly, all our sites. We have 80 in North America. And I'll tell you, they're not many better than the 80 we have. And you can go to that list, find one near you. And we go from Orange County to Boston to Florida and back again.
Yeah,
so,
you look like you're pretty much everywhere except in the middle section of the country there. I guess there is this something that is not available in rural America and middle America? Is this only in the big cities and the big coasts? Kind of seems to be that.
Paul, the answer is for clinical research, there are gaps, no pun intended. There are holes.
Yeah, right.
But for getting this drug's going to be available
everywhere,
to any American, just like anywhere else eventually. You know, if you're in the big cities, CVS is starting a program. I had the list where they're going to do cognitive testing to see if you're eligible for this drug.
That's
CVS stores.
That's a
break. There's some more news, right, Paul?
Yeah, that's huge.
I think they're going to be down there in Orange County. I know they're going to be in LA. It's Dr. Trinh. It's in the press release, and I apologize that I don't know for sure, but a lot of major markets will be first. Sort of like the Major League Baseball, and then they'll get to the AAA and AA towns very quickly.
Right. All right. Well, I didn't know the clinical trials were visible to the public. I thought they're all stealth. You got to know somebody, and the general answer is go to your physician, and he somehow mysteriously beats the drums and gets signals back from the medical community. I hear something's happening over here. Go check it out. You're saying there is...
You do what Dr. Trinh said. You go to clinicaltrials.gov, you go to his website, you go to our website. Regrettably, they're going to know a lot more starting next week than they knew last week, Paul.
Yeah.
But primary care physicians and neurologists still don't know all the trials that are right within a 9-iron of where they're practicing medicine.
Isn't that the truth? A chip shot would get you there, but they don't know it's even in their backyard. Because that's not... Unfortunately, we talked about a lot, but Dr. Trinh said it's the system, it's time, it's energy, it's effort, it's a conveyor belt, it's moving the patients through, and that may be economically efficient, but it's not always leading to the correct diagnosis of these difficult to determine diseases here.
Hey, Paul, can I just say one more thing, slightly provocative, but I like the way your show works. If your audience is in Medicare Advantage,
Right.
or a Medicare recipient,
Like me.
fee for service,
Medicare
traditional
Advantage.
And well, when you think about signing up for next year, you ask that Medicare Advantage plan, do you cover AduHealth?
There you go.
And what's my copay going to be for AduHealth?
Wow. Put a little pressure on them. They start hearing that enough times, they come back and say, hey, we got to look at this. I'm getting this all the time. I'm losing deals. I'm not
There
getting
you
people
go.
signing up.
Now you get it. So I want all the Medicare folks to say, I don't know if I'm right for it, but by God, if I'm right for it, I want it. And I want my Medicare Advantage plan to meet my needs. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to go talk to the other guy.
Boy, wouldn't that be powerful if people walked in and said, because everybody, when that re-enrollment period arrives, you get flooded. Everybody and their brothers says, come to me, come to me, come to me. And they all kind of look the same to me. But there are critical questions I need to be asking because they may or may not be covering what I may or may not need based on my own medical history, my own fear of Alzheimer's. My mother had it. Could I get it? All that kind of stuff.
Do they have a memory clinic? You get the drill. So Dr. Trinh, I'll let you close, but I wanted you to, I think that's a really good strategy. I've been beating that drum a little already.
I like that. Let's turn these people into citizen advocates here, consumer advocates, right?
Oh yeah. So guys, great talk today. We're gonna have to have you back sometime, John, soon, where we'll see where this medication's at in the process of approval and all that. And
does it roll out? Is it really here? And what's really behind it? You're kind of hinting there's more to come.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So glad you came on and chatted with us, John. So hope Monday, the decision for Monday to me is the biggest thing in my mind is the word hope. Mm-hmm. And it's the start. It's not perfect, but it's hope. We have something now in 18 years of like just dryness in anything FDA approved. We now have some hope.
We neurology beat Moses by 20 years.
Wow.
I love it.
I hope you've parted the Red Sea for us here. You've certainly taken back the blinds a bit here. I've learned more about what it is and what it isn't. I've learned to ask some empowering questions where I can go to find clinical trials and maybe to put a little pressure on my healthcare providers. Hey, get with the program here, bud.
Amen.
All right. Thanks. Take us out, Dr. Trinh.
All right, guys. I'll see you guys next Thursday. Thanks, John. We'll chat more soon. Take care.
Be well, everyone.
Well, there you go, folks. Only here do you hear these kind of conversations on Health Talks with Dr. Trinh. On Orange County's only community radio station, octalkradio.net. Streaming live from the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center. Come back and join us each and every week for innovative, thought-provoking, cutting-edge guests and discussions like this.